Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is David Murphy, publisher of the National Black Unity News. We come to you today with one of our editors, Mr. Paris White, who I think is a unique gentleman who's doing unique things. And we're going to jump into that in a few minutes, but I'm going to give you a little insight about the National Black Unity News. The National Black Unity News newspaper is a nationwide and beyond circulated Black publication. It's a periodical, it's a solution-oriented publication, and it is by us and it's for us. And so that kind of set us apart. You know, we are what you call independent publication. So that means we don't rely on outside sources to sustain us. We are self-reliant. And so, and the way we become self-reliant, we have what you call a collaboration. And one of the reasons why we are self-sustaining because of brother Mr. Paris White, people like him, and quite a few others who has come together, bringing their products, goods, and services to us. And through us, we send it out to you. And so again, I want to welcome my brother, Mr. Paris White. And because I don't like to get into people, you know, what they did, when they did it, how they did it. And I know sometimes people don't really like to talk about themselves, but this is about us and it's about you. And so, Brother Paris, how you feeling today?
I'm doing really good. I'm doing really good. Thank you for having me on the show, Mr. Murphy. I really appreciate it. Just to introduce myself, my name is Paris White. I am the creator and designer of the Urban Legend series, books, board games, and trivia cards. The books I created are storybooks written about my childhood that you can read to a younger child, the older child can color it, and it's a series like Diary of a Wimpy Kid, so it'll grow with your child. I also designed a board game that brings the book to life. It's called the Urban Legends, Summer Adventures, The Journey to Be Cool. And it's a board game that teaches word association and memory because it's a huge picture find. It also, it's really interactive and educational at the same time, where you may pick a card and may have to physically run around the board game screaming them on fire. It's a staring contest. Repeat, I will not embarrass my mom into your next turn. I also created trivia cards that educate our children and our families about African-American history. They're called legendary trivia cards, and you'll learn about African-American artists, inventors, athletes, scholars, and leaders of our time. And the really cool thing about the trivia cards is that you can also incorporate them into the board game to add more educational value to the board game. So it ties it all together in one package where the book encourages the play of the game and vice versa. If your children play the game, it would encourage them to read the book to learn about the characters. Then also the trivia cards, when incorporated to the board game, it teaches about our history in a fun and exciting way.
Okay, now you said a whole lot there because you mentioned a book, you mentioned cards, and you mentioned the board game and how interactive they are with each other. And tell, let's start from the beginning. How did this come to be?
When I first had my daughter, and it was, at bedtime, and I would tell her the stories of my past, of my childhood, and all the adventures that I had, and all the silly things, and all the trouble I got into. As she got older, I mentioned to my wife, how I tell her these stories, and she encouraged me to write those into a book, so a lot of kids can enjoy the adventures that I had, because some of them were really wild. I was a really, really wild little boy, but I had fun growing up in the city. So in the process of writing the book, we went out to the stores to get a game that represented, this is about 6 years ago. We went out to get a board game. We had Monopoly and Trouble and Sorry and so forth like that, but we wanted something new, something that represented us. So we went out to the stores to look for something, and there was nothing. We went online and there was nothing. So, me and my wife sat down and came up with a bunch of fun, interactive ideas for a board game. And since I was writing the book and the board game kind of needed a story behind it, I used the book as the backdrop to interact with the board game. And we always wanted to create something that educated our kids as well. So the trivia was always supposed to be a part of the game, but since it was a separate game in itself, and we had to think about whether parents would, who would be playing the game. Sometimes it's, oh, I don't play board games, but I love trivia, and or vice versa. So that way you can get the trivia cards, but then also include them into the board game to bring the age level of the gameplay up and the educational level of gameplay and make it fun and exciting for everyone, for the whole family to play from ages 4 to adult.
Yeah, I appreciate that. The Black National Unity News newspaper, one of our purposes is to enlighten enlighten our people. To give them solution oriented information that can enhance their quality of life. And I heard you speak about the game several times now, but I want to ask you for our listening audience who will see this video that yes, you mentioned that the reason why you did the games, the books, and everything else, but about you, sir.
Mhm.
You know, sometimes, like I say, you mentioned how you came up, and like you said, it's sort of a backdrop of some of your journeys that you've been through. But tell us a little bit about you yourself. Like I say, why? Like I say, you must have some type of passion in you
Oh, yes.
to do, even to come up to even think of something like this, and not only think about it, but bring it to fruition.
Mhm.
So give me a little insight. What drives you, sir?
Well, I was born and raised in Washington, D.C., in Southeast Washington. And we had, local parks and recreations and, where we could go, libraries and so on and so forth around the neighborhood. And that's pretty much all we had other than, coming up with our own games ourselves. And I grew up, right before the, crack epidemic got bad. So,
Mm-hmm.
living in a community of, people who really looked out for you, where you can go to your next door neighbor, if your mom wasn't home from work yet, and she'll bring you in and, she'll, make sure you ate and are fed. And when your mom got home, it was a community where you were really looked after. If you were somewhere being bad and, your parents, your neighbor saw you being bad, it would get back to your parent before you even got back home. So
Right.
I really loved growing up in my community. I knew all my neighbors. It was, the candy lady in the neighborhood. We had, those different staples. We had the ice cream truck. We had the watermelon wagon, that would come around. And it was just really a community. And everybody really looked out for each other. And that's what I grew up in. And that's what I wanted to convey in my books. As I grew up, I went on to go to college at Morgan State University. I did a couple of years there, and then I, kind of missed being in DC. So I moved back to DC and I went to the University of District of Columbia. And then from there, they had a little issues with accreditation when I was there. So I transferred over to Maryland University. And that's where I finished college. I did not get my degree because, at that time I was paying for my own college, and working and trying to, maintain a life outside of, school and work. So it just got to be a bit much. And my career I started out in architecture, and I kind of changed my mind and wanted to go into writing. When I was young, me and my father, when he would give me a ride to school in the morning, and we'll stop and get the paper, and he would always give me the comic strip, and he would take the sports section and the rest of the paper, and we'll be sitting drinking he'll be drinking his coffee and I'll be drinking my hot chocolate, reading the papers. And I always had the inclination that I wanted to have my own comic strip in the paper. And that's what I really wanted to do. And because I like to draw and tell stories, my father encouraged me to go to school for architecture. So that's how I ended up in that field. But my passion has always been writing. I started out doing short stories, poetry contests up at the university, American University, at Busboys and Poets. And then eventually start writing short stories until I actually had a comic strip in a Virginia paper for a while. Ran a couple ads, and then I just went on to concentrating on the book and finishing that up.
Oh, that's fantastic, sir. So, a very insightful background. But let me say this, we're here to talk about not only just you, but the games, the books, because I think personally it's a powerful tool for us as a people. Now, I'm not putting down any group or race of people, but but I'm more focused on us, we.
Yes.
And from your perspective, sir, how do you how do you envision this game the books go far? Your aspirations to see if you had to say, I would like to see this go to this level or that level.
Well, personally, I had the sky is the limit. It's the sky isn't living and beyond. I have so many ideas. Like I said, this is a series. I have shortly the next book and board game in the series coming out. I'm working on the Spanish version. I'm actually already being asked to make games for museums for their or the cities themselves. I'm also working on 500-piece puzzle playing cards. It's just so much coming down
Wow.
the pipe, and I'm also trying to do a game app and a virtual game. I have so many talks, so many irons in the fire, and I have so many, directions that this is going. It's just, I'm glad to see people appreciate me for my talent. That is the most, wonderful thing that I could say for myself, is that to be appreciated for your talent. So many times I've worked jobs that, that was thankless. You come in extra hours, you work the holidays, you there on snow days, you may be the only one there. And my career, path followed me into warehouse management. So I had to deal with a lot of different personalities, and always challenges, but at the end of the day, I went home feeling like, nobody appreciate what I do. But to hear it so often, brother, I really appreciate what you've done. You've done a great thing. What you've done here is, how you linked everything together, and the vision that you have. I could never be as humble as I am right now to even feel so appreciated from my family, my friends and my peers. They really do see, the talent that I had, and that's monumental to me.
We will be back after these messages.
Paris White is the creator of the Urban Legend series books, board games and trivia cards. A series geared toward African American culture and history. The storybook is written comic book style, that you can also color. That tells the hilarious adventures of a 10-year-old boy living the city. The book is brought to life in a 2 to 6 player interactive, picture-find board game that encourages social activity. The legendary trivia cards honors the triumphs and struggles of African American history, that can be incorporated into the board game to add more educational value. The series is designed to grow with a child's educational development up into adulthood.
Welcome back. Yeah, you mentioned to me one time, I think you said you was in the mall and someone came to you, I think it was a little girl or something. Can you kind of explain that story again to me?
Yes, a family were in the mall, and they were on the other side of the court, and I was at the kiosk that I run. And the mother said, "There's the guy." I could hear her say, "There's the guy that created the game that we were playing." She had previously purchased the game, and she ran over to me. She was like, "My mom told me you're the guy that created the Urban Legend board game. We had so much fun. It was so exciting." And the mom said, "I have to put the game up because they want to play it every night. And I was like, she said, the game is fun, but you only can run around the bedroom so many times, or repeat, 'I will not embarrass my mom' so many times a night, for weeks." So, it's really great to see people come up to me. My wife started crying one time. We had walked into St. Charlestown Mall, and I wasn't vending anything. I just walked through the mall, and then a young woman come up to me and say, "Hey, you the guy that created the board game." And, I said, "Oh, how you doing? How how are you enjoying the game? And she was like, yeah, I'm enjoying the game. All right, see you later. And, we say goodbye. And I looked at my wife, she was in tears. And I'm like, what's wrong? Why are you crying? She was like, you're being recognized for something that you did. You know how big that is? And I'm like, it didn't sink into me because, I'm just the average everyday guy. So, to her is monumental. To me, I guess I'm seeing it now because I hear it so much, but it is a great feeling to know that you did something great.
Yes, it is, because like I say, God bless us in so many ways. And this I do know, not getting spooky, not getting spiritual, but it is what it is. God bless us all with gifts and talents.
Mm-hmm.
But it's up to us to nurture those gifts and talents.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do that, it is written that your gifts will make a way for you. And what you do with a gift, I guess it is, you give it to those who may need it,
Mm-hmm.
or who deserve it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I could say from the outside looking in, sir, based on the information that we received in the paper, and we have talked to you on several occasions, you explained to us, the National Black Unity News, about your services, and it's well received with us.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm quite sure it's well received to those who read the National Black Unity News. And I believe, just like you say, you have so many arms in the fire that I know how that is, but you got so much in you and you want to burst out at one time sometimes. But of course we have to pace ourselves. But
Yes.
but it's good that you're not just stopping here. You got future aspirations, and we need us. I keep saying that, melanated, Black, African American, we need all the help we can get.
Mm-hmm.
And so I truly appreciate what you have done, what you're going to do. And but I want you to, before we end this brief presentation or conversation, I just want you to share with our listeners, because this podcast will be going to quite a few different places. I want you to let them know again why you designed your books and your game, the purpose of the games and
Mm-hmm.
books,
Mm-hmm.
and how they can get in touch with you and how they can get it.
Okay. I just wanted to, before I get into that, I know we're short on time, but I just wanted to get,
Take your time.
You were mentioning about things about being, God driven, or, God being behind the purpose that we do things. I created this game while I was still working as a warehouse manager. And the day that my games arrived on my door for me to start selling, I was laid off my job, due to COVID, apparently, but I was the senior manager and there was managers underneath me, but for whatever circumstances, I was the one that was let go. So all I had at that point was my game. And, it was, I probably would have never quit my job to, go pursue my passion, but I had no choice but to pursue my passion. And because of that, I met so many great people that, guided me along this way. And, I just definitely feel that my hand is guided by God, and all my actions and all the paths that's opening up to me is guided by God on a definite spiritual journey. But the reason why that I truly created this game, because we did not have anything that represented us that I could find. It's important to me, even as a child when I was young, to see myself represented, even on TV and commercials and so forth. Why hasn't it been a game that represents us, that tells a positive story, that tells great stories about us? So, with that lack of inclusion, even in a trivia card, you can get a trivia card game pack that talks about the history of the United States, and you won't maybe find one person or two people in there of African descent. So, I made my own trivia cards because it's important for us. They're not teaching it us in school. And if you get my trivia cards, you see Gregory Hines, you see Angela Davis, you see Thelonious Monk, and it's a series. So you'll see different sets of cards that, is giving us so much information. But I did this for us, for our people, so we'll have something that represents us. And it is very, very important for me to educate our kids and to teach them, that through your own talents and skills, you can have something more. You don't have to follow the path that's always laid out in front of you. Use your talents to benefit from. That's the culture that we came up in, in the past, is that, you did work according to your passion. And when you do something that's according to your passion, you're really more rewarded in life.
I appreciate that. And you're so right, because there's a thing that I suggest the readers do. It is called the 7 levels of why. And it takes you on a journey, just like in your case, or in my case, I would hold up the National Black Unity News and say, why do I do this? And the normal thing, just like you just say, I want to help my people. And then you keep asking yourself, why do you want to help your people? But usually by the time you get to your 4th level, you're back in your childhood somewhere. And mine took me so deep, it took me down to the kindergarten. I used to love to sing, listen to music. I love music. And but one day, for some reason, and see, in my time, I'm 70, and in my time, this was in the mid-50s. And we didn't have Black radio stations then. We had to listen to other people type of music. My time was the Elvis Presley, the Pat Boones, and people like that. Every once in a while, they would play somebody like a Nat King Cole. Just like you say in the history cards, you only see 1 or 2 of us in there. And that's the way the music industry was. And one day I decided in the kindergarten, they used to have this thing called nap time. They just make the children just lay their head down and take a break. And I just started singing my little heart out. And the teacher told me to shut up. And the children started laughing. And I became an introvert from that period on, all the way up to my 60s, just because of that little subconscious thing. But to make my point is this, I also, when I went on my 5th and 6th level, there was a cartoon out when I was a little boy, and his name was Mighty Mouse. And you remember, yeah, Mighty Mouse was he was a bad little mouse. He used to fly, he had big muscles, and he used to beat up all the cats and the wolves that would attack the mouse village. And after he beat him up, he would fly off to the sunset with the little mouse girl. But the point was, he was always trying to save the village. And deep down inside, that's what I was doing. I'm still doing to this day, trying to save the village. But then on the 6th level, I asked myself, why do I want to be a mouse? And then we had this thing called the Mickey Mouse Club when I was a little boy. And they had a little boy in there, his name was Cubby, and a little white girl on there. And Cubby was around my age, 5 years old. And I had a younger brother than me, about a year apart. And we used to say, I'm Cubby. He said, no, I'm Cubby. And we would go back and forth. And, sometimes we end up physically fighting each other. And I asked myself, why did I want to be a little white boy? And then it hit me like a ton of bricks. You see, I didn't see any positive images of myself during them days. Nowhere. When you saw someone in a movie or something, we was buffoons, maids, and slaves, and from the jungle or something. But I'd never seen anything that I could say, it's me. And so I get your point. When you say you were seeking and you couldn't find things that represented us, so it's extremely important that I'm glad that you're doing what you do, because there's still so many of our children don't see us. They don't see us in, like you say, the sorry games and all the other games, that they don't see us in them. And so, man, you charting some territory, man, that just like I am, I can identify you with a lot of ways, because see, I'm in media. I'm up against a giant. I mean, a massive giant. But even in your industry, it's massive. You break it into something, that, they had these Mattels and all these big companies, all of this kind of stuff, man. And so, but sometimes, God raises people for such a time as this. And I'm so appreciative of you that not only had the fortitude to just think about it, but you did it. And you continue to, like you said, you should have so many arms in the fire, and you continue to want to bring more and more and more. And so I'm just going to say this to those who will be hearing this. My brother's going to explain how you can get the information, but we're going to have credits at the end of this, and they would have the information, websites, and everything else on it. But from your own, how can they get in touch with you, sir?
Okay, you can order games and books and trivia cards on my website, theurbanlegendseries.com. You can also see pictures and videos on my social media pages. All are The Urban Legend Series. So it'll be Facebook, The Urban Legend Series, Instagram, The Urban Legend Series, and I also have a TikTok page, which is The Urban Legend Series as well. So Paris's Neighborhood is definitely coming to a store near you. You can order it online. I have a great team. I have a great social media team, manager with AU Prosper. So, you know, look for great things. I'm getting a lot of things lined up so I get this stuff out to you guys.
I appreciate that. And sir, you know, I thank you for taking time to be with me this afternoon. And I want to thank you for what you have already done. And like I say, I'm serious. I greatly appreciate you. You know, you're very innovative, and all I can say is this, man. You know, if anything the National Black Unity News can do, we would do the best we can. But this is a personal invitation to you. I've been blessed and been gifted with a lot of gifts as well.
Yes.
And it's not about money, sir. No, seriously, I don't want you to think this, but you know, if anything I can do to assist you, because that's what I do. You know, as you hear me say often, I'm a servant of servants, and I'm here to serve servants, and you, sir, are a servant in my eyes, and therefore the task that God has put you on, and sometimes here I don't think we met not out of happenstance. You know, it was supposed to be from my perspective.
Yes, sir.
On the spiritual thing. And if I can do, and as you will see in the very near future, because I'm quite sure we're gonna have many conversations, and but you will see some of the gifts and talents that God has blessed me with, and then maybe you can intertwine with some of the things that you're doing. And sometimes not how much you know, it's who you know. So we have a wealth of information, like I said, I'm an old fella, old school guy, but been around the block several times.
I may look older than you with this gray, but it's
yeah. but I'm just saying this though to you. You know, it just does me so good, man, to see brothers like yourself, man, who commit themselves, and you're a humble gentleman. Say it's not all about you. You know, you want to serve. You know, and that's a powerful thing that you got going on, brother. Stay true to your cause. Man, I appreciate you. And we're going to conclude this conversation now, but you will be hearing more from this brother here, Paris White, because like I say, he mentioned to you already, he got a lot on the ball and he's working it out, so be prepared. But the number one thing is support this brother, because he's here to support us. So thank you, brother. Appreciate you. Any parting words before we go?
Just I want to say thank you for having me on my show. I really appreciate the Black Unity News Network that you guys have. You know, I'm already met a ton of people, and I can't wait to meet everybody that's part of the paper and just grow with you guys as well.
All right.
I appreciate the opportunity.
All right. Thank you, sir. And we're going to say good night.